I wake to find this fever resting. I rest in knowing I'm his own.
So welcome to the second portion of On Further Reflection with Norm Allen in our conversation with Mike Janzen about his Psalms project. The two volumes are titled The Carried Words and The Lifted Songs. And last time we focused on Psalm 42, and today we're going to discover some of the other Psalms that were Mike's companions in connecting with God and connecting with physical and mental health. And so welcome, Mike, again. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. So from a stepping stones or milestones, because you've got one song on this, I think it's on the second volume, Milestones.
Yeah.
So if you were to look at these Psalms, Psalm 42 was sort of invitation to move towards the light or whatever. What were the next progressions for you, and how what were the next phrases or things that comforted, guided you?
Yeah, well, my good buddy Steve Bell always talks about the Psalms being a big springboard that they bring out through your own life, resonating off the Psalms. It brings out something new, musically, lyrically, and so I was writing stuff on the Psalms, but I was also aware that sometimes there's just the spirit of the Psalms, which is just being honest before God. So the next song I think was "Remembers Me," which was one of those songs. It doesn't happen too often, but every year or two you get this song and it's downloaded very fast. So within half an hour, it's all done. And that was one of those songs for me. The words were, "The Lord remembers me in my low estate. He keeps me near his heart and restores my soul." It's a really simple song, had 4 stanzas. It moved from personal, my own low estate, it moved into other people, and then it moved into more personal to God, and then it eventually moved into corporate, thinking about the world as a whole, with this pandemic, all the losses, with so many horrific things all over the world, that Jesus one day will make right all the wrongs in this world. So that one sort of was probably the next one, I think.
And I really like it. It's a very profound song, and I like it, for the reasons that you've just mentioned, because I imagine knowing that you're remembered when you're stuck in a basement.
Yeah.
Is a pretty big deal. But then to be able to, by virtue of that being remembered, develop a larger view of the world, that's an interesting process.
Yeah, and I can't say in those days, I kept thinking, I wish I could do more for others because everyone's helping me out and my family.
Right.
And I can't say I was necessarily in a place where I felt like I was in that bigger corporate, bigger world sense. But there is something about that, right? That even though I was going through my thing, everyone is going through their stuff.
Yeah.
And in the world, especially, that's true too. And I do love the picture of Jesus sort of restoring, making right all the stuff that really is not right in this world right now.
Now, the interesting thing too about there's a few, maybe only a couple of the songs, like certainly the Psalm 23, and there's another one where you follow the text of the Psalm, relatively closely.
Yeah.
The rest of them are what you're saying. They're a reflection on, or picking up on one line and doing sort of what the monks did when they would hear a psalm read several times. A word or a line would come to them and they'd go back to their cell and meditate on it.
Yeah.
So you're doing a meditation in a sense on some aspect of a song.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty profound kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Psalm 116 that's on there is almost word for word, that one.
Right.
And there are a couple, like you said, but a lot of them are just going with the spirit of what the Psalm's saying or jumping off a verse or two. And it's interesting. A lot of my projects, when I look in the rear view mirror, I don't always want to listen to them that much for a long time. And then eventually you want to, but this one, what's special about it for me is so often I don't have words to pray to God. I wake up, maybe I'm in a bad mood, or I wake up and I just sort of feel, mundane. And so those Psalms and these words that really are based out of the Psalms, they really give you some kind of vehicle to travel to God. They give you a chance to sort of lament, think of people who are going through problems. They give you a chance to remember what God's done and mark the milestones in your life of what God's done. And really, each one of them in a special way can sort of lead you to God as you try to pray the words that you're hearing sung.
So the Psalm 105, Remembers Me, you feel like that just sort of came almost as a complete package. So talk about some of the other songs on the project that where they were in your process of recovery and what they meant to you, what they mean to you today, in a sense.
Yeah, and there was one song too that didn't come all at once, but I remember waking up and just feeling really down, really discouraged. I wasn't getting better. If anything, I was getting worse. And I sort of stumbled to the studio feeling all dizzy, and I had a couch right by the window, and I just sort of lay down, trying to be okay with the fact that I wasn't going to do anything useful today. And I remember lying on the couch and just sort of praying to God, like, I've got nothing today. Just speak whatever words you want me to hear, but I'm just going to hang out here. That's all right. And so I just sort of closed my eyes and rested. And within a few minutes, I had these words pop in my head. And it came out of Psalm 97. I didn't know where it really came from. And that's some of the songs I didn't actually know where is this theme coming from. And then I had to discover it after. But it was just the Lord is God, and towering clouds enshroud. Deep fire burns in his eyes. And it's sort of a weird song to think of when you're not having a good day. But another song that slowly came into my head, and I went to the piano, and again, within 20 minutes or so, most of it was sketched out, not always the lyrics. And I remember walking into the house at lunch, feeling a lot better, and just said to my wife, I said, I think I just wrote the first song on the album. And that was an interesting gift from God. And not all of them were like that, obviously. The honest truth is, if you go to my computer, you'd see probably hundreds of bad ideas that just didn't turn out that great. But there were a few special songs that sort of came pretty fast, and that was one of them.
So talk about further down the road, what kinds of, you would have glimmers of hope, you would get discouraged. Were there particular then psalms that have now become songs that became another mile on the road for you or whatever?
Yeah, another really important one to me, I think, was Abounding in Love. And that seems to be a really important one to a whole bunch of people. I've had a jazz career for a lot of years, and it's always hard getting hits on your YouTube videos.
Right.
But that one somehow had no trouble with that. And it's just so interesting because as I was getting better, I had about 6 months where I felt like I could start playing and performing again. And then when that was over, the pandemic hit and shut everything down. And the interesting timing of that was now everybody was isolated. A lot of people were lonely, and everyone sort of had no idea what their future looked like. And it was so interesting to me, the timing of all these songs that were written in this time of longing suddenly were true for everybody, which I didn't see coming. And Psalm 86, it opens up with, you hear the cries of our heart, the longing of our souls. And I had so many people contact me just saying, that means so much to us in this season, that God knows our thoughts. He knows our longings, what's not going right. And then the chorus says, the Lord is forgiving and good, abounding in love and slow to anger. He's full of compassion and mercy. And it just sort of shifts it from ourselves onto who God actually is. And somehow that really lifted me too, just to know I didn't have to do stuff to impress God. He wasn't going to be impressed. But he was just full, like overflowing, like gushing with love and compassion for me. And that really helped me too in those days.
So now at this point in your journey, you've got this project, 2 volumes called the Psalms Project, available at MikeJansenTrio.com or on Apple Music, just to do a little commercial in the middle of it. Where is it at? You've had a release concert, a virtual release concert.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to release it. I would have loved to, book out Kerner Hall, book out a string orchestra, and just make it this great celebration with a choir and everything. Because there's something about these songs that have always felt very corporate, even though they're intensely personal. There's something about the Psalms that way too, that's very personal, but somehow corporate. So I wasn't sure what to do with this release. So I thought, well, maybe I could draw attention to so many of the people who actually made this happen. And that's really the truth, right? I couldn't even sort through the songs and decide what was a good song or not. So I would often send pieces to my good friend Kev, and he would sort of go through them all, stop what he's doing, and and sort of tell me this one's terrible, this one's good, this one's bad, that kind of thing. So I wanted to draw attention to some of the great people around me who actually made this happen. So the CD release was an hour-and-a-half video that I interviewed 10 friends who helped me on it. Lila Bialy's on it, who was amazing. Steve Bell's great on that video. He says so many profound things. And my wife, I sort of think, is a star. She's very honest and vulnerable in it. So you can check that out too if you're interested in more of the story. It's on Eventbrite, called the Psalms Project release. And that was really fun to put together, even though I'm not a video editor. I had to sort of cobble things together, which was actually an enjoyable process, even though there was a lot of tears shed.
So what are your hopes and sort of dreams as we get inoculated and as we develop something that resembles a different kind of life than lockdown? What psalm is on your heart to say, this is one that I hold on to for future hope or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Nothing necessary specifically comes to me. I mean, Psalm 25 talks about marking the milestones. And it is much more of a prayer of like, sort of use me in this season. And I'm a huge believer that whenever we go through seasons where we do without, which is sort of this Lent season right now, like a lot of people fast, they give up chocolate, give up something in order for God to fill our appetites and our desires with things that are more holy, to reorder our desires. I think out of these seasons where we do without, God puts something special inside of us. There's an opportunity anyway for that to happen. So I think my hope for us as a society, as we come out of this, is that when we re-experience, life again, faith with others, prayer with others, hopefully, sing songs with others, that will really, that'll be a very special time, I think.
One of your songs has got, I've found myself in expanding places or abundant places.
Yeah.
Because it was interesting as I listened to it, and I'm sorry I can't tell you which song it is, but it had that sense that the narrowness was going and expansiveness was part of the story. Is that?
Yeah, I think that was Psalm 16.
Okay.
Maybe. It's called Overflows. The idea that, that out of these seasons, Psalm 16 actually is a really hard season for the psalmist who's writing it. It's one of my grandma's favorite psalms, even though she struggled with depression a lot. And I always wonder, why'd she pick that one? Because it's quite positive in some ways, but it's also obviously shows the wrestling inside of her. And the words of the chorus are, therefore my heart overflows. And the idea of it's overflowing with sort of thankfulness and gratitude for what God has done in your life, even though it hasn't always gone right. And I think we have a real opportunity for some beautiful things to come out of this season as we let that gratitude actually come out and overflow to others, to helping out others, being more present to others, and also to God, as we remember he sort of gets us through these seasons that are hard.
Right. So one of the songs that has really stuck with me is a blend of Psalm 3 and 24. I wake because the Lord sustains me. And those of you who receive my Wednesday missives during Lent will have seen that I talk about the Psalms being Jesus' prayer book, and trying to imagine what it would have been like for him to go to sleep and what would have been on his mind. And would he have said, I wake because the Lord sustains me? But at the same time, that particular psalm has a lot of heavy uh, pieces to it where anybody who's reading that psalm is under attack. They're feeling that people are conspiring against them. And Jesus knew weeks before his crucifixion that there was a world full of assassins out there. And so part of his praying was stuff that I can't pray, but we can pray on behalf of others. And so talk a bit about the development of that song, I wake because the Lord sustains me, because in many ways, you must have some days been afraid almost to wake up, or you were so glad you got to sleep you didn't want to wake up. But
Yeah, no, you're right. And waking up when you're not feeling good every day, and you don't really have work to do it's a tough thing. Most of us have careers to get to and family and much to take care of in any given day. But it's a reminder, that psalm to me, that whether being chased chased by who knows what, sometimes it's stuff in our own lives that we're trying to.
We have internal enemies of pride, anger, envy,
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
as well as you had the enemy of whatever is causing the concussion symptoms.
Totally. And despair sets in, right? And you have these enemies speaking. I remember the first days, like a lot of different thoughts coming into your head that I was almost scared by sometimes. And it did feel very much under attack. Maybe others have had injuries, brain injuries or other things like that, where they feel that same sense. But the idea of waking, that our very breath in our lungs, if we're alive, we're here for a reason, we're here for a purpose. There's good to be done, and that God has it. He's got it. The chorus of that song, I took out of Psalm 24, which is, all the world and everything in it is yours. And for me, that's a really helpful reminder, because I like to get my hands all over a whole bunch of stuff and make it mine, right? How much we make, how much our living is, how good we are at things. We just like to get our hands on stuff. So just to remember that in my weakness and brokenness, that God has got this. He's got the whole world. Everything's his anyway to begin with. That's helpful. And then the other thing I think in that psalm is the idea of waiting. And we really don't love to wait. I don't love to wait. But there's a sense of patience, of holy patience before God, that we sort of wait. We take the time early in the morning or sometime during the day to sort of wait and listen, and let God fill the emptiness in our heads or our hearts. And I think that's another real important part of that song as well.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to offer some words of wisdom and encouragement to us. We're going to end this as we did the first piece that we sent out a couple of weeks ago, with the opportunity for us to meditate and listen to one of the pieces that Mike has written. It's a blend of Psalm 3 and 24. I awake because the Lord sustains me. If you want to get more information about what's going on with Mike's life, MikeJanzenTrio.com. That's JANZEN trio.com. He's got information about his whole career as well as the Psalms project. Because I'm a simple country boy. I got his CDs on Apple Music. There are other places that you can find it. And I would encourage you to do as I have done, and I know many others have, is I have brought it together into my personal devotional experience. And I've been listening to one song every morning as I enter into my place of meditation. And sometimes it just stays with me. And so that's an important part of what we're doing. So Mike, thank you for this. And may the Lord bless you and keep you and make his face to shine on this project, and keep your family safe and healthy and well. So let's go into this moment of meditation. We're going to finish this piece of video with this song, as I mentioned. I would encourage you to settle into whatever location you're in, calm your breathing, calm your body, let yourself relax, and listen with your eyes closed, and just let the words and the music touch your soul. Mike, any thoughts to move people in?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Yeah, just take the time to breathe in deeply. Breathe in the fact that no matter what you're navigating in this season, that God has this. The world is God's, everything in it. He controls our days. He gives us breath, and it's going to be all right. You'll get through it with his grace.
Breathe in the spirit and breathe in the music.
Because the Lord sustains me. And I rise to greet my waiting King. I wait to let his presence fill me. His breath and love my lungs to see. And all the world and everything in it is yours. And every field, flower and forest is yours. Inhale, each moment spent, each burning lung, each second lent, each day that stretches out like prairie sky. Each forest walked, each field run, each bird that sings its morning song, cattle on 1,000 hills. give